Hi friends, I'm Katie Brinkley and you're listening to Rocky Mountain Marketing. This podcast is all about helping Colorado-based small business owners, entrepreneurs, realtors, and professionals discover the strategies and systems that take their marketing to all new heights. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Friends, this is episode 1 of season 2. I can't believe that season 1 is in the books, and I never thought that it would be as much fun and have so many great guests as I did. The first season of Rocky Mountain Marketing, there was a lot of stuff for me to learn, and I really grew not only just as a podcaster, but also my network. And that was really the whole purpose of Rocky Mountain Marketing. So for those of you that don't really know the story behind it, I started my career in radio. I was a sports journalist. I went to school I wanted to be the next Susie Wargin. So for those of you listening in Denver, you know who I'm talking about, but not everybody might. And when I was little, I would sit in my dad's truck and I played competitive softball, and I would go all over the state in this red truck, listening to 850 KOA, listening to Dave Logan and Scott Hastings, and then the sports chick, Susie Wargin, on the radio just about every day. And I can't tell you how cool it was for me to hear a girl on the radio talking about sports. I loved sports. I loved football. I loved hockey. I played softball, and I played soccer. But hearing a female voice on the radio really, really connected with me. I mean, I always just thought it was so cool that here's a girl talking sports with the guys. And that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I played softball through college, and I went to a Division II school down in Durango. So for those of you, again, in Colorado, I went to Fort Lewis College. And I played softball for my first 2 years there. And then after my sophomore season, I decided that I wanted to take a step back from softball and really kind of see some of the other opportunities that you get when you go to a smaller school. So I dived all in. I went all in to the radio station, and I became the music director and then the assistant news director and the sports director. And I had all these great connections that I was making, and I was able to be on the air and really craft speaking. So the opportunities were there for me in college to start speaking and getting some radio experience. What does this all have to do with Rocky Mountain Marketing? Well, this podcast is really a way for me to connect and go back to my radio roots. I got a job right out of college, guys, at 850 KOA. I was doing the locker room reports for the Rockies. I was doing Broncos training camp, and it was a fantastic opportunity. I even actually got to work under Susie Wargin for a bit. So talk about a great opportunity, being able to work with someone that you looked up to growing up. And I have to say, she's just as awesome in person as she sounds on the radio. So this podcast really allowed me to go back to my radio roots, but still be a part of what I am doing today, social media. Now, again, I'm talking about my college days, but this was when I really got started, not only with radio, but with social media as well. I started in MySpace. Yep, guys, 17 years ago, MySpace was the thing. Facebook, if you remember, was mostly just for, not mostly, it was entirely for colleges. And yes, I went to a Division II school, but for some reason, Facebook just didn't count my Division II college as a legitimate university to be on Facebook. So I was all in on MySpace. It was actually really good that I was, though, because, again, I worked at the radio station, and one of the jobs that we had to do at the radio station was get bands to send us their music for free. And because we can't pay royalties, so one of my jobs was to get these bands to send us their music. Traditionally, we were sending emails, sending handwritten letters. Yeah, you guys remember those? Off to all these different bands and record labels trying to get them to send us their music. And it was a fantastic opportunity because I saw on MySpace how quickly connections can happen, how quickly you can be in touch with somebody on the other side of the country, the state, the world. And it was, I seized the opportunity. So I started connecting with all of these bands on MySpace and really making connections with them. And as they would come through, Denver, they'd give me tickets to their shows. I would play their music and promote them on the radio station. It was a win-win for both of us. But that's when I got my first taste of social media, and I saw what a powerful tool it is. Now, like I said, I had my dream job. I worked in radio, but I was always doing social media on the side. It wasn't until 4.5 years ago, back in 2016, that I went all in and followed my dreams to becoming a social media strategist, running my own company, and finding my dream clients that I wanted to work with and who wanted to work with me. And I have to tell you, it was the best decision I made. However, it was also a little bit scary. Remember, I was a journalism major. I didn't take hardly any business classes, and so everything that I've learned about running a successful business has been self-taught and from people giving me the gift of their time. Me taking people out for a cup of coffee or connecting with them through LinkedIn and just asking them questions, and people that answered me gave me so much value. And it's really what allowed me to have my business and be as successful as it is. And this is where Rocky Mountain Marketing was born, right here. I wanted the opportunity to get back to my radio roots, to start networking with other business owners in the Colorado area, and to share tips and knowledge, create a community around this podcast. I really wanted to have the opportunity to have people connect with the other business owners around them. COVID, we all got shut down in different ways, and we all had to pivot and find new, unique ways to attract our clients and customers and connect with them. When we had to all shut our doors, we all had to be creative. And so that's where the podcast came from. I wanted to start a community here in Colorado where we could all really have the opportunity to learn from one another and meet one another. So, hey, if you're driving down the road and you see a coffee shop that you're going to pull over and head in and buy a cup of coffee because you heard them on this podcast and you got a valuable tip from the owner. That's what this podcast is all about, is the opportunity to grow your business and grow your network here in Colorado. Now, the podcast really grew and evolved over the first season, from specializing with just Denver-based business owners to then inviting different guests from around the country who are experts in their field. I really wanted to give the marketing strategy and systems to all of my listeners. I wanted to have those experts that you would pay to hear speak at a conference come and give you some valuable tips that you can start implementing in your business immediately. Some of my favorite episodes include having Kyle Wells, the owner of Torpedo Coffee here in Denver. And we talked all about Facebook groups, how he had to pivot his business and how he focused on building a community around his coffee shops, joining those Facebook groups, asking them questions, and immersing himself into that community. It was a brilliant strategy, and it really showcased him as the neighborhood coffee shop. That was the place that you wanted to go to because you see them showing up in your Facebook group. So if you want to check out that episode, it's episode 7. Another episode that you listeners loved was Networking Doesn't Need to Be a Dirty Word with Lori McGehee. Networking is so important. Again, that's part of the reason that I have this podcast. I wanted to create a network of people that you felt you could run into at the grocery store, that you could drive by their business on your way to work one day, and you'd want to pull over and say hi because you felt that that person gave you value and you learned something from them. If you didn't get a chance to listen to Lori's episode, it's episode number 4, and talk about a great episode of the importance of networking. Be sure to check that one out. Now, as I mentioned before, I did have some digital marketing experts come on the show as well. One of the most popular episodes was with Roger Cunningham, and it was all about email strategy. Email sometimes gets lost by the wayside, and we can focus so much in our social media or our Google AdWords or our Facebook ad spends that we can sometimes kind of forget about the importance of email. You know, one of the things that I thought was extremely valuable that Roger said was, we don't own our followers on Facebook or Instagram. We don't own them. Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, they own those followers. However, your email list you do own, and there's so many ways that you can show up and give value through emails on a regular basis. If you want to check out Roger's episode, it was episode number 31. And one of the last guests that I had in season 1 was Brendan Kane. It was such a pleasure to have him on the show because honestly, I've read all of his books, and when he reached out to come on the show, I felt truly honored. Brendan talked all about hook points and creating that leading edge and hook in each of your social media posts that's going to make someone want to click see more and spend more time on your posts. If you want to listen to Brendan's episode, it was episode number 48. Season 2 is going to be even better than Season 1, guys. I have a ton of guests already lined up to come on the show and share their business practices and business tips, as well as digital marketing experts that are going to come on and give you guys the knowledge to take your business to all new heights. If you're ready to level up your social media strategy, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to take a look at what you have currently in place and see what strategies and systems we can start implementing to help your business grow. If you're on Clubhouse, be sure to follow me on Clubhouse. I'm at Katie Brinkley. And if you're new to the platform or are still waiting for your invitation, be sure to go to katiebrinkley.com/guide, and you can download my free Clubhouse guide that's going to give you all of the tips, icons, and terminology that will help you navigate this brand new social media platform. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. As always, I'd love to hear from you. You can visit my website at www.nextstepsocialcommunications.com, connect with me on LinkedIn, or check me out on Instagram. I'm at next.step.social. Let's keep taking your marketing to new heights.